We are not going to get to human-level AI by just scaling up LLMs. This is just not going to happen, okay? There's no way, okay? Absolutely no way. It's not going to happen within the next 2 years. There's absolutely no way in hell.
The productivity revolution of LLMs is a complete lie. We've been told that AI was going to make us faster, improve the quality of our life, and even create breakthroughs in science. The technology was supposed to keep improving until it created a human utopia. But the truth is, it stopped improving over a year ago, and the AI companies know this. You see, LLMs hit a ceiling in late 2024. The chinchilla scaling laws that made everyone think AGI was inevitable stopped working. More computing power no longer produces improved models. What you're seeing now is bigger marketing budgets pretending to be better technology. Now in this video, I'm going to show you what really happens when you use these tools yourself. Not only do you get slower at your job because you're always spending time fixing mistakes instead of creating, but your brain stops doing the hard work of thinking. You've outsourced that to a machine that actually can't think. The neuroscience on this matter is clear. Regular use causes measurable cognitive decline. These systems are also dangerous. They hallucinate false information on a regular basis while sounding completely authoritative and sure of themselves. The polished expert tone completely shuts down your skepticism, so you don't verify what you're reading anymore. And that's when costly mistakes can really happen. Wrong facts, fabricated citations, and broken logic delivered with total confidence. Now, here's why they can't improve anymore. LLMs are trained on data scraped from the internet. That's how they got better with scaling. But the thing is, they ran out of data at this point. They've already fed everything on the internet into these models. And now AI-generated content is starting to flood the internet. So when they train the next generation of these LLMs, they're being trained on their own slop, which slowly starts degrading the power of these LLMs. It's a vicious cycle, and each generation is going to keep getting worse, not better. And that's not my opinion. In this video, I'm going to prove it to you, showing studies that this is happening right now as we speak. Now, companies have staked trillions of dollars on a technology that's already failed. Their stock price assumes a future that the math says is impossible. When investors figure out what you're about to see in this video, which is backed by actual hard data, the financial destruction will dwarf both the dot-com crash and the 2008 crisis combined. Okay, now first I want to talk about the biggest lie in the LLM marketing playbook, and that's that these tools are making you more productive. Now, every tech company selling LLMs has basically the same pitch. Use our technology and you'll code faster, you'll write better, and you'll finish in hours what used to take days. The productivity revolution has arrived. Except that's not true at all. You see, in July 2025, METR, which is a nonprofit research organization dedicated to evaluating AI capabilities, ran a breakthrough study. It was a randomized control trial with 16 experienced software engineers. These were people with an average of 5 years of experience working on their own projects that had millions of lines of code. And these people also had experience using LLMs in the past. This was a blind study where researchers measured actual completion times for real coding tasks. Now, before the study started, developers predicted that AI would make them approximately 24% faster. But after they were finished, they estimated that AI had made them about 20% faster. Okay, now brace yourself for the actual results. They were 19% slower with AI than without it. Think about that gap. They thought they were 20% faster, but they were actually 19% slower. That's a 39-point swing between perception and reality. The AI had created such a strong illusion of productivity that even experienced professionals could not tell that they were moving slower. Let me explain why. When you use AI to write code, or anything for that matter, you get instant outputs, and that feels like progress. Your brain registers the speed of the generation as extreme productivity. But what you're not accounting for is everything that comes after. The AI hallucinates functions that don't exist in your code base and generates solutions that look right but break under real conditions. you spend a lot of time debugging, verifying, and fixing subtle errors that are hard to find, and it would have been a lot faster if you had just written the code yourself from the start. Now, let's zoom out and take a look at how this plays out across the entire economy. McKinsey surveyed thousands of companies in their 2025 AI adoption report. Despite 88% of organizations claiming they use AI, only 6% are actually seeing any value from it. The rest burned millions of dollars implementing tools that delivered nothing. 2/3 of companies are still stuck running experiments and pilot programs because they just can't get the AI to work reliably. Then there's the Uplevel data study from September 2024. They tracked 800 developers over 3 months, comparing teams using GitHub Copilot against teams working without it, and they measured the quality of the code and how fast the work got completed. Developers using Copilot introduced 41% more bugs into their code than the developers working manually, with no improvement in how fast code got finished or how much they produced. The only measurable change was more errors that needed to be fixed later. This is a pattern. AI does not make you faster, it creates more work, and it's disguised as productivity. You feel productive because you're typing less, but the actual time from start to finish gets longer and the quality degrades. You don't even realize it's happening because the tool has convinced you that the instant output equals progress. The productivity revolution is a marketing campaign built on a fundamental misunderstanding of what productivity actually means. AI doesn't just fail to deliver on its promises, it does something even worse. It actually damages the people using it, and most of you don't even know it's happening. Okay, so we know that AI is making you slower at work. But what if I told you that it was also rewiring your brain, and the damage gets worse the more you use it? MIT's Media Lab tracked 54 college students over 4 months as they wrote essays. They split participants into 3 groups. One used ChatGPT, one used Google for research, and one worked with no help at all, old school in the library. Every participant wore an EEG headset monitoring brain activity while they worked. Now, the ChatGPT group showed the weakest neural connectivity of all 3 groups. Researchers measured reduced activity in the prefrontal cortex. That's the part of your brain responsible for critical thinking and decision making. Now, when you outsource thinking to the AI, that region begins to slowly shut down. After 4 months, researchers told the ChatGPT group to write without AI assistance, and their brains did not recover. They still showed weak connectivity compared to the other groups. 83% could not recall key points from the essays they'd written themselves. When asked to quote from their own work, none of the students in this group could do it accurately because their brains had no connection to the work they'd created. Now, this study calls this cognitive debt. Every time you use AI to think for you, you're borrowing against your future ability to think. The neural pathways that handle complex reasoning atrophy from disuse. Now, there's another problem that makes this even worse in professional and personal life. The LLM responses sound like they come from an expert, and that tricks your brain into trusting them without checking if it's a hallucination or not. And as we know, these models hallucinate on a regular basis. Harvard and MIT published research in 2025 showing that people trust AI based on how confident and professional it sounds, not based on whether it's accurate or not. The smooth, polished writing style makes your brain think the information is reliable. When AI writes with authority, you just stop questioning it. Now, another study found that AI models write in a confident and authoritative tone even when they are completely wrong. That tone makes it hard for you to tell the difference between true information and false information. Your brain sees professional language and assumes it must be correct as if it's coming from an expert. This causes real damage. You ask for health information, you get back something that reads like a medical textbook, so you don't double check it because it looks so legit. But the facts are wrong and the sources are possibly made up. This advice could actually hurt you but you may already have trusted it because it sounded so smart. The same thing can happen with financial decisions, legal questions, or technical problems. AI gives you hallucinated garbage wrapped up in expert language, and it's hard to tell it's garbage because the presentation looks so professional. This creates a vicious cycle. You use AI for simple tasks and your skill set begins to degrade. You start needing AI for things you used to do yourself. And as time goes on, you even lose the ability to check if AI is right or wrong. This leads to you trusting bad information, making lots of mistakes, and then relying on AI even more to fix the problems it created in the first place. The damage isn't just slower work or weaker thinking, it's complete dependence on a system that can't think, combined with losing the ability to tell when that system is lying to you. Okay, now I want to talk about why LLMs can't actually get any better from here. The improvements have stopped, and there are three main reasons behind that. Now, firstly, we've run out of solid training data. LLMs learn by reading massive amounts of text that they gather from the internet. The more quality data you feed them, the better they get. And that's how we went from GPT-2 to GPT-3 to GPT-4, and we saw large improvements with each model. Each version was trained on more data, and thus they got smarter. Now, Epic AI published a study in 2024 showing that we've exhausted all the high-quality text that exists. Every digitized book, every scientific paper, every Wikipedia article, every well-written piece of content online has already been scraped and used. There's nothing left to train these models with. So, the companies came up with an innovative solution, or so they thought. So what they did was they started training new models on AI-generated content instead. They started feeding LLMs text written by other LLMs, and this causes something called model collapse. A Nature study from 2024 documented what happens when you do this. Quality degrades by 8 to 12% with each generation. It's like making a photocopy of a photocopy where each version just gets blurrier and blurrier. We're already 2 or 3 generations deep into this, and the internet has now become up to 60% AI-generated content. Every new model trains on that polluted data and actually gets worse instead of getting better. Okay, next I want to talk about how the scaling laws stopped working. So for years, AI companies were following something called the chinchilla scaling laws. The principle was very simple. As long as you doubled your computing power, you would get a model that was roughly double in capability. That's why we've been building all these data centers filled with more and more GPUs. However, from 2020 to 2023, the trend held that doubling the compute actually did give you double the results. But in 2024, that trend broke completely. Now what you can see is when you double the compute, you may get approximately 5 to 8% improvement, but you're spending twice the money for an extremely diminished return. OpenAI discovered this with their latest model codenamed Orion. Leaked documents from December 2025 showed that they had used 10 times the compute of their previous model, and the result was barely any improvement on benchmarks. In fact, it actually had worse performance on complex reasoning tasks, and the internal memo said it plainly: scaling alone is insufficient. Companies tried hiding this by cheating on tests. They would overtrain models specifically on benchmark questions, so the scores looked good. GPT-4 can score a 95% on the GSM-8K, which is a standard math test. But if you give it a novel math problem it hasn't seen before, even on a high school level, it fails to solve the problem. It doesn't possess logic, it is simply memorizing the answers. Now, thirdly, and this may be the most important part, LLMs cannot reason. They can never reach AGI because of how they fundamentally work. LLMs are prediction models. They predict the next word based on patterns from their training data. They don't understand what they're saying, they have no model of how the world works, and they don't grasp cause and effect. When you ask a question, the LLM does not think about the answer. What it's doing is it's simply generating words that statistically look like answers to similar questions it saw during training. Reasoning requires building mental models, testing ideas, and understanding truth versus fiction, and LLMs cannot do any of that. They pattern match, and that's it. Yan Lee Kuhn, who runs AI research over at Meta, put it this way: autoregressive LLMs are an off-ramp, not the highway to AGI. Now, what he meant by that is that this technology is a dead end. You can't get to general intelligence by predicting words. You need a system that actually understands what it's talking about, and LLMs quite simply do not. The companies building these systems right now know this. The researchers know this, but they've raised billions of dollars promising AGI is coming soon, so they keep pretending the technology just needs more time. The fact is, it doesn't. It needs a completely different approach that no one's figured out yet. LLMs have peaked, my friend. The data is gone. Scaling doesn't work anymore, and the architecture can't reason. Everything from here is just bigger, more expensive versions of the same dead-end technology. Okay, so to wrap things up, I want to talk about my own personal experience using LLMs, and I think it really does show that a lot of what I've said in this video is truly quite accurate. And if you've got your own experience using LLMs and whether it was useful for you or not, I want you to go ahead and drop it in the comments below so that we can have a discussion. I really do find that some of the best bits of information come out in a back and forth discussion, and I want to interact with you guys. But for now, I want to say that I started using LLMs back when ChatGPT 3 first came out. And at the time, I thought I'd found a superpower. I was one of the first people to start using LLMs. I was using them at work, and I was using them for my own personal life. I was pumping out massive detailed documents that looked super professional and really well put together. I genuinely thought I was working at a level that I couldn't have done on my own. But as I started doing more detailed work, where I actually had to use what the AI was giving me, I started to realize that a lot of it was saying was generic, vague nonsense dressed up as profound insights. There were confident statements with absolutely no substance behind them. I also found that LLMs would annoy me to no end, and this didn't get any better when ChatGPT 4 and 5 came out. It was like having a foolish assistant who just can't do anything right. It would constantly forget details of what I had asked it to do. It would give incorrect outputs that did not follow my instructions, and it seemed to have no ability to handle complex tasks at all. In fact, I found it couldn't even give me an accurate character or word count on documents that we had completed together. It can't count. This is when I realized that this tech has no brain power, that I'd been having discussions with a robot, which is just a prediction model, and it can't even handle complex prompts. I felt like I had ended up wasting my time, and I honestly felt annoyed every single time I finished using it. I realized that even if it was speeding me up, the amount of annoyance that I felt from using this technology meant that it really wasn't even worth it. And when I saw the meter study and others, I realized that, in fact, it wasn't even speeding me up. So that's when I just stopped using it. And here's the thing, honestly, when I stopped, I genuinely felt stupid for a while. Tasks that used to be easy and automatic suddenly seemed difficult. I had a hard time organizing my thoughts the way I used to, and I'd often find myself reaching to AI out of habit, and I had to force myself not to. It took weeks to get back to where I was before I started using it on a regular basis. My brain felt like it had to rewire itself. I had outsourced my thinking to a machine for so long that I had lost some of the ability to think myself. The experience really changed how I saw the technology. It's not just that LLMs don't work as advertised, it's that they actively damage you while convincing you that they're helping. And most people don't even have any idea that this is happening. That's why everything on this channel is made by me, without AI. This is organic, free-range, human-made content. And if you appreciate that, I want you to hit that subscribe button. Because relying on these tools regularly might be as damaging as smoking. You don't notice the harm until it's too late and you try to stop. Look, LLMs hitting a dead end doesn't mean that AI as a whole is necessarily finished. There are other approaches being worked on that may actually lead somewhere. And if you're interested in me covering those topics, go ahead and drop a comment to let me know. The AI bubble is going to pop, and it's going to be bigger than anything we've seen before. On this channel, I want to cover every single second of it. So please hit subscribe and let's go through this together. Now, I just want to end this video by saying a thanks from the bottom of my heart to everyone who watched this far. And I really want to say an extra special thank you to those who've subscribed to the channel. I genuinely appreciate you guys, and it's good to know there's other people out there who share my point of view. Now, to give back to you guys, I am going to be giving away free Patreon access in the near future to the first few hundred subscribers. So if you're interested in that, please make sure you're subscribed. And as soon as I launch the channel, I will be reaching out to you guys to make sure you get your free access. Thanks for watching. And remember, don't let a machine do your thinking for you. Keep that human brain functioning. Thank you and good night.